الجود والكرم والله حافظه وجبرائيل خادمه والبراق مرقبه سدرة المنتهى مقامه كاب قوسين محبوب رب المشرقين والمغربين جد الحسن والحسين مولانا ومولاي الثقلين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل. ثم الصلاة والسلام على جميع أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين المنتخبين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد ولعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم منكر فضائلهم غاصب حقوقهم ومراتبهم ومنزلتهم ومقامهم من يومنا هذا على قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الإمام المبين الحسين بن علي بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: ألا وإن الدعي ابن الدعي قد ركز بين اثنين، بين الصلة والضلة وحيحات من الضلة. صدق إمام المبين. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعجل فرجهم. Today, we've started a little bit earlier than time, which means I've got a little bit extra, which I don't usually have. Normally we're running over and we have to rush, but we've got a few minutes extra today, and so I want to go over a few of the things that we spoke about over the last few days. We're speaking about this phrase of hayhat min nadillah. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he says, on the day of Ashura, in that battlefield, as he addresses the armies of Yazid, that we can never be humiliated. We can never be humiliated, but he doesn't specify one thing. He doesn't specify who we is. He says, hayhat min nadillah. He could say, I can never be humiliated, but he didn't say that. He could say, my family can never be humiliated. He didn't say that. He could say, the imams can never be humiliated. He didn't say that. He didn't specify who we is. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, throughout this journey of Karbala, throughout this journey through the desert, from Medina onwards, he speaks in this plural sense. He speaks as a group. Whenever he addresses, he says, we the people, he says, we as a group, but he doesn't tend to specify who. There's one place where he specifies it. When everything begins, in the palace of the governor in Medina, when Imam Hussein is told, give allegiance to Yazid, when he's told to accept Yazid as the ruler, as the leader, what does Imam Hussein say? He says, misli la yubayo misluhu. Someone like me can never give allegiance to someone like Yazid. Why? Yazid was a tyrant. Why? Yazid was anti-Islamic. He wasn't just a poor Muslim, he was anti-Islam. Yazid is that man who attacked the Kaaba out of jealousy. Yazid is that man who would openly drink alcohol on the musalla, in the mosque. Yazid is that man who was anti-Islam. Imam Hussein decided in that moment, someone like me can never give allegiance to someone like Yazid. Now see, as Muslims, that matters to us. As Muslims, we can never accept someone like that. But here's the deal. It wasn't just Muslims who accepted Imam Hussein alayhi salam. It wasn't just Muslims who stood with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. In fact, from the world around, people were sending letters to Imam Hussein. As he left Medina, news reached the whole world. It wasn't quite like today where you'll see videos on Insta and TikTok and Twitter of what's going on. It wasn't like that, but word still spread. Around the globe, word still reached people. They realized something's happened. They realized Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he said he's going to take a stand against Yazid. He needs people to support him. All over the world, people realized this. And so they began sending letters. They began sending letters to the Imam to say, oh Imam, come to us and we will protect you. Come to where we are and we will look after you. We will make sure you're okay. We will raise an army for you. Oh Imam, come to where we are and we will be the ones to be your supporters. The two most famous places where the letters came from, although they came from the world around, but the two most famous places, and the reason they're the most famous is because this is where most of the letters came from. The first is Kufa in Iraq. Very famously, the people of Kufa, they wrote to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. They said to the Imam, Imam, come to Kufa, we'll protect you. We are where your father raised his khilafah. We are where your father led the Muslim world from. Come and we will protect you in Kufa. We spoke yesterday about loyalty. The Kufans showed their disloyalty. The Kufans, they showed that they weren't to be trusted. And we'll talk about that a bit. The second most famous place that invited the Imam with the most frequency, with the most letters, was none other than India itself. The land known as Hindustan. But here's the thing. You didn't have loads of Muslims there. You didn't have loads of people who believed in Islam there. In fact, you didn't even have loads of people who believed in Tawheed there. So why did they stand with Imam Hussein? What was the reason that they stand with Imam Hussein? Why did they all send him letters and say, oh Imam, this stance that you're taking against Yazid, we will stand with you. Come to us and we will protect you. Because, as I've said before, Imam Hussein is the Imam of love. When you have love in your heart, when you have goodness in your heart, when you have truth in your heart, then you can only resonate with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When you have truth in your heart, the love for the people, the love for humanity, you can only stand with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You can only stand with the Imam. Why? Because his stance was a stance of love. Yazid was a tyrannical ruler. He murdered and maimed people. He attacked innocent people. And so, Imam Hussein's stance resonated with all those people who believed in the rights of the righteous, who believed in the rights of the oppressed. And that's why today, it doesn't matter who you are. Across the globe, we see that same energy inspiring people all around the world, all around the globe. We see it today. When you look at Palestine and then you go and look at the protests that happen. I don't know if anything happens around Reading, but in London, you have every single week, you have a protest. Every Saturday, you look at those protests. We, the Muslims, we've been protesting for decades. We've been protesting at least every single year in the month of Ramadan. The final Friday of every month has been dedicated as Al-Quds Day. The Muslims, they have been protesting at least on that one day every single year for as long as I can remember. I've been in each and every one of those protests. Every year we were there. But the rest of the world now is seeing those atrocities. They're waking up. You go to those same protests now every single Saturday. All of a sudden, the Muslims are almost in the minority there. In fact, they are in the minority. Now you have people from every faith, every creed, every belief, every background, all standing there with the people of Palestine. Why? Because love will always win. Love will always shine through and it will always win. And we spoke about love over the past few days and we raised that up to the level of loyalty. We spoke about love and loyalty and the need for that in order to make ourselves amongst those people who can say, hayhat minna dhillah. That we will never be dishonored. We will never be disrespected. It doesn't matter what you do, how many of us you kill, how many of us you attack. Whatever you try, we will never be dishonored or disrespected. Why? Because of these attributes that we hold. We spoke about love. We stepped it up the next level to loyalty. And now I want to step it up another level. The level of sacrifice. You see, I can be loyal, but when it comes time to make a sacrifice, that's when I start to waver. Loyalty is that thing that helps me make a sacrifice. But the reality is, in order for love to truly reign supreme, for loyalty to truly reign supreme, sacrifice is key. We have to get rid of all of that which is bad within us. All that which is a nuts, which is rijs within us. Everything impure, everything bad within us. We have to get rid of it first to make room for that love, to make room for that loyalty. It is a concept in the very base of Islam. The very beginning of our religion. You cannot be a Muslim until you do what is known as tabarra, until you reject that which is wrong. You cannot be a Muslim until you reject that which is wrong. What do we say in the Shahada, in the Kalima? What do we say? La ilaha illallah. What do we start off with? La ilaha. There is no God. There is no God illallah, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First, you reject every other God. After that, you accept Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You make sure that your heart is pure and clean of all that which is wrong. And then you make room for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You make room to submit to your Lord. You make room for the truth once you get rid of the batil. Once you get rid of that which is wrong. Recite aloud, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It's the very core and the basis of our religion. You have to get rid of that which is wrong before you accept that which is right. But here's the deal. We call ourselves Muslims, as we should be proud of being. But how often do we spend time within our lives to try and get rid of that which is wrong within us? How much do we try and get ourselves ready for that, what we call in Urdu, josh, that jazba, that energy of sacrifice, that drive and desire towards sacrifice, so that we might be able to fill our hearts with that love and that loyalty to the level that is required in order to one day be the soldiers of our Imam. You see, until you get rid of those bad habits, until you sacrifice those desires, you're not going to be able to reach those levels. And there's different desires that will try and control you. They will try and take over you. In fact, according to the ahadith, the picture that is painted is that within our bodies and within our minds, there is a constant battle going on. A constant battle of different things trying to gain control over you. Trying to control you. Now, when we look at it and we think, if I'm living my life, who should be in control of my life? Who should be in control of what I do? It should be me. I shouldn't be living my life and letting Mehdi make all of my decisions for me. I shouldn't be living my life and letting somebody else control everything I do. Why? Because it's my life. This is what I want to be doing with my life. I should be able to choose what I do. I should be responsible for my own actions. And at the end of the day, who is it that will be asked about what I did in life? Who is it that will be questioned about my actions, about what I did? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's not going to ask Shams uncle, why did Zaki do this? No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's not going to ask Sherry, why did Zaki do that? No. He's going to ask me, why did you do this? Why did you do that? So it makes no sense for me to let somebody else control my life. It makes no sense for me to let somebody else control me. But the question is, even within me, who is in control? Who is in control of my actions? Who is in control of the things that I do and don't do? Who is in control of how I behave? I often say this, right? Whenever I'm like teaching in a madrasa or something like that, and two kids get into a fight, yeah? One of them will always go, oh, but he did this. Right, well, just because he did that, that doesn't mean you have to respond in kind. His behavior and his akhlaq, it shouldn't control your akhlaq. No, you're in control of yourself. What you do is your choice. Now, we're told that there's this constant battle going on between us for control, within us for control rather. What is it that's trying to gain control? What is it that's trying to take over within each and every one of us? The first thing that we see, according to the ahadith, there are three main things that are trying to take control within you. The first is your tongue. Or rather, there's four things. I'll mention the three bad ones. The first is your tongue. Your tongue is trying to fight for control. What is your tongue fighting against? Your stomach. Your stomach is the second thing fighting for control. And the third thing, and I have to put this mildly because there's a much wider audience than there was when I began this lecture, is your shahwat, your privates. They're trying to gain control over you, over your actions, over how you behave. How so? We're told that these are the three main causes of sin. The three things that cause you to sin the most. The fourth thing trying to gain control is your mind, your intellect. Now, of all of those things, which one does it make sense that we give control to? Your intellect. The smarter you are in life, the better choices you make. The better choices you make in life, the more successful you'll be, both in this life and the next. We should give our intellect that control, but it's not always that easy. There's a fight within us, a constant battle, and a tough battle, a truly tough battle. Your tongue is the first cause of sin, or one of the causes of sin. How so? Your tongue is that thing which you use to do ghiba and backbite and gossip. Your tongue is that thing which you use to swear, you use bad language. Your tongue is that thing which you use to lie. Your tongue is that thing which can get you into so many difficult situations. In the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your tongue is so dangerous, which is why we're told again and again and again to control your tongue. Control the way you speak. A few of you guys here will have heard me again and again, as we're speaking, I'll constantly remind you about the language that you use. And I'll say that exact word, I'll say language. Why? Because the more you're in control of your tongue, the more you're in control of your mind. The more access and the more power you give your mind to make your decisions for you. And I'll use the example of swearing. When you say something, when you say any kind of sentence, right, you speak with a reason. You speak because you want to get across a message, you speak because you want to make a joke, you speak whatever the reason is, right? Either you're asking a question, you're answering a question, or you're adding something to a conversation. You speak with reason, with purpose. What purpose does a swear word add to your conversation? What's the reason for saying that swear word? If I'm saying any sentence and I start skipping words out, the sentence doesn't make sense. Every word in that sentence is there for a reason. What's the reason for a swear word being in your sentence? Especially when you're talking casually, when you're not angry or anything like that. When you're talking casually, where did that swear word come from? Why is that in there? The reason that's in there is because you weren't thinking when you said it. The reason that's in there is because it was an instinct. You weren't in control of that swear word. It came out on its own. The more you control that, the more you control your tongue, the more power you give your mind over yourself. You're taking power away from your tongue slowly and giving it to your mind. And your mind is what should truly have power over you. And the second, your stomach. We're told, and on the face of it, it might seem like, how can my stomach be the cause of sin? But the reality is, the impacts of the way we eat and the way we satiate our stomach is massive. And yes, I can see Heather pointing at Mehdi. You see, our stomach, it makes a big difference to us. How so? In a hadith of one of our imams, the imam tells us about the impact of a full stomach. He says that when the stomach is full, the mind is muted. The intellect is muted. When your stomach's full, you don't listen to reason. How many times has it happened where you're on a full stomach, or the opposite, you're really hungry? Someone's trying to talk to you, someone's trying to explain something to you, it doesn't work. In fact, how many of you guys have used the excuse during Ramadan that, oh, I've got exams, so I need to eat? Why? Because when you're on an empty stomach, your mind doesn't work as well. Your stomach has control, it has an impact, it has an effect on you. You guys all know it. I've heard that excuse a million times. I can't fast this Ramadan because I've got exams, I've got my GCSEs, I've got my A-levels, I can't fast because, I need to be sharp. It works both ways. When you're super hungry or when you're super full, your mind, your intellect is muted. Secondarily, the limbs, they become too tired to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many of you guys have had it where you've had a meal, a really good meal, it's a heavy meal, there's loads of food, right? And after that meal, you're just slumped. You're sat there and you don't have the energy to get up. You don't have the energy to stand up. If you ate on a sofa, there's no chance you're getting up from that sofa. You want to just fall asleep right there in that position. Why? Because when your stomach is full, your body becomes tired. Your body becomes lethargic. You don't have that energy anymore. A full stomach, it impacts the way you behave, whether you like to see it or not. It's true. It does. If I'm hungry, I'm more likely to be angry. If I'm full, I'm more likely to be, how do I put this? Lustful, let's say. If I'm full, the shahwat that take over me, they're more likely to have an impact. Your stomach has a great impact and a great effect. And look, there's a wide audience here, so I won't go towards the third cause of sin, but I've already mentioned it. And for those of you old enough to know, you understand as well how much of a danger that is, especially in this day and age. You'll find those shahwat, those desires, they start to control you, when in reality, it should be your mind that is in control. Your mind is who you are. Your mind is how you think. Your mind is how you should be controlling yourself. But when you give that control away, all of a sudden, you're not the one making your decisions. Like we said, when you give your tongue too much power, your tongue is doing things that your mind knows are wrong. When you give your stomach too much power, when every time you are hungry, you eat and you eat until you can't eat anymore, you don't control your eating. These are all the signs that take us away from control over ourselves. Especially when it comes to the stomach. We're told it's the most dangerous. Why? Because it leads to the most sins after that. It leads to the most sins after that. We have least control over ourselves when we give in to the desires of our stomach the most. When you're talking, you might catch yourself while you're talking. Stop yourself from saying one thing or another. With your other desires, with your shahwat that we spoke about earlier, those you might be able to stop yourself. You know they're wrong. You feel the guilt more so. But your stomach, when you give in to the desires of your stomach without any control, I'm not saying if you're hungry, eat, bismillah, but have control over what you eat and how you eat. Make sure you have that control. If you lose that control, if you give in to that desire there, it becomes harder to stop yourself from other desires. And look, you will have desires. That's normal. That's natural. You'll want to do things that you know you shouldn't do. You'll want to listen to certain music. You'll want to watch certain things that you know you shouldn't be watching. You'll want to go places that you shouldn't go. There will be girls at school that you have a crush on, that you fancy, that you like. That's normal. That's natural. In some cases, that's a relief. But the reality is that doesn't mean you have to go and chat to every girl that you like. That doesn't mean you have to add every girl that you like. That doesn't mean you have to try and get into a relationship with every girl that you like. Why? You liking them, that's your desire. That's normal. That happens. Are you controlling your desires, or are your desires controlling you? That's the question. You need to be in control of your life. You need to be the one making decisions. Don't let your desires make the decisions for you, because they don't make intellectual decisions. They don't make smart decisions, and they don't make decisions based on what is best for you. Your mind, that will make the best decisions. Your intellect, that will make the best decisions. And we see it again and again throughout history. In the story of Nabi Yusuf, very famously, this great prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even he was faced with temptation. The temptation of a lady named Zulaykha. Now, to give you a bit of background, and I'll keep it brief because again, there's a lot of you here in the audience of very different ages. Nabi Yusuf is known as one of the most beautiful men in history. One of the most good-looking men in history. One of the most, how can I describe it other than that, really and truly? One of the most beautiful men in history. In fact, in Iran, my friends who were native to Iran, when they saw someone, or when they were speaking to someone and they wanted to compliment them on their looks, a guy I'm talking about, and as I say this, it seems weirder than it is. Out there, it's quite normal to compliment your friend on their looks. The way they would compliment someone to say that they're good looking is they would say, Tuka Yusufi, you're Yusuf, you look like Yusuf. Why? Because you're good looking, that's what that means. Nabi Yusuf is synonymous with looking good. That's what they would say to people. Nabi Yusuf, one of the most beautiful looking men in history, according to every report and every narration. Zulaykha, she too was known for her good looks. She too was known for being a beautiful woman. Now Zulaykha, she became besotted with Nabi Yusuf. She was really attracted to him. She really liked him. So she decided to hatch a plan. She wanted to try and attract Nabi Yusuf towards her. She hatched a plan, and I won't go into detail over what she did, but in essence what she did is she got herself into a situation where it was just her and Nabi Yusuf in the room. Just those two in the room, and now she wants to attract Nabi Yusuf towards her. What does Nabi Yusuf say? He tells Zulaykha, no, my Lord is the greatest. My Lord is the one who provides for me. What's he telling her? In this moment, when I've got this attractive lady in front of me, this attractive woman in front of me, she likes me, and no doubt any man would have seen Zulaykha and thought she is beautiful as well. Nabi Yusuf, he says to her, look, it doesn't matter how beautiful you are. It doesn't matter how good looking you are. It doesn't matter how much you want me or I want you. No, the reality is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it's haram, so I don't want that at all. I don't want to step towards that. When we spoke about love and loyalty over the past few days, this is that level. You've got to be ready to make sacrifices. Make sacrifices in your life so that you can be in control of your own life. When you're in control of your life, then like Nabi Yusuf, you will be honored and treasured forevermore. You see, in that moment, when Nabi Yusuf rejects Zulaykha, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Zulaykha tries something to tarnish the reputation of Nabi Yusuf. She tells a lie to her husband a man by the name of Aziz. Aziz was the equivalent of what the Prime Minister in this country is. A very powerful man. She tells him, Yusuf was the one who tried to attract me. Yusuf was the one who came to me. She told a lie about Nabi Yusuf. Now, if that were to happen in this day and age, and you see it happen all the time with footballers, celebrities, the like, if that were to happen today, that's it. You're done for. Career's over, life's over, you're cancelled, everything's finished. Nabi Yusuf, to this day, he's honored and treasured as a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's revered, he's mentioned in the Holy Quran. Again, in fact, there's a whole surah about him in the Holy Quran. Nabi Yusuf, throughout the world, he's honored for his good looks, for his good character, for his good being. And so I go back to that hadith that we keep remembering. Hayhat minna dhillah. Dishonor, humiliation will always be far from us. Here, Zulaykha made the ultimate accusation against Nabi Yusuf, one that guys do not come back from, one that guys can never come back from. And yet, today, it's Nabi Yusuf who's revered and respected beyond everybody else at the time. It's Nabi Yusuf who's honored and respected as a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Truly, no matter how much the world tries to ridicule you, no matter how much the world tries to go against you, if you are on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you truly follow his path, the path of haqq in its entirety, then there is nobody who can bring humiliation to you. Honor and respect will find their way to you. Dishonor and disrespect, they will never reach you, no matter how much the world tries. Recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali. So we try. to control ourselves, to control our tongue, to control our stomach, to control the desires of our shahwat. We try and control those as much as we can, again and again. That's called willpower. It's like we spoke about a few days ago when we spoke about strength. We finished off that lecture on strength with strength of character. Amirul Mu'mineen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. Muhammad wa Ali. When he is in the Battle of Khandaq, and we finished off with this story last time, I'll pick it up from there as well. I wanted to mention it the other day, but a few of you guys weren't here, and I wanted everyone to be here for this lecture. In that moment, Amirul Mu'mineen, he has this great warrior pinned down on the ground, and I'm not going to go over all the details again. Great warrior pinned down on the ground. He's got his Zulfiqar, his sword in his hand. That warrior spits in the face of Imam Ali. What does Imam Ali do? He gets up and he walks away. Why? Because in that moment, if he had killed that soldier, if he had killed that warrior, it would have been out of his own anger, not out of the jihad for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There, it's control over his emotions. He was angry. He admits it. He says, if I killed him because I was angry. Meaning what? Amirul Mu'mineen, he was angry. Ali Murtaza, he was angry. He felt that anger. But he controlled himself. He controlled his anger in that moment. The more we control our desires, our emotions. And that doesn't mean to repress your emotions. That doesn't mean to ignore your emotions. No, it means to have control over them as opposed to them having control over you. And the reason I wanted to make sure that the most of you were here for this particular lecture is because this is one thing I've seen, particularly here in Reading, right? Everywhere I go, people always ask me, what did you think of our community? What did you think of us? Tell me, what did you think of me? People always want to know that question. Oh, mashallah. People always want to know that, right? And my honest verdict for you guys here in Reading, this is what I genuinely think. I think I've not met anyone here whose heart wasn't in the right place. I've not met anyone here who didn't have a good heart, a clean heart, who wanted to do the right thing, who wanted to be a good Muslim and a good mu'min. I've not met anyone here who didn't have that. But at the same time, I don't see that strength of character. The ability to say no. The ability when you want something to say, actually, even though I want it. And don't deny that you want it, it's fine. You're going to want these things. Let's not pretend that you don't want them. That's fine. You want these things, it's normal. But I don't see that ability to say no. To turn down something that looks attractive in the moment. But you see, when you can turn those things down, when you can control your desires, when you can control your emotions, now all of a sudden you're the one in control of your life. You're the one making your decisions. Now it's not your tongue getting you into situations that you have to find a way out of. It's not your stomach controlling what you can and you can't do. MashaAllah. Recite aloud, salawat Allah, Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. You see, you have to be the one in control. Just because, and I said it before, I'll say it again. Just because you like that girl, it doesn't mean you have to go talk to her. The desire is normal and that's natural, but the action, you have to be in control of that. Just because you like listening to music, it doesn't mean you have to put your AirPods in and start listening. The desire, normal, doesn't mean you have to give in to that desire. Just because you want to watch something, you want to go somewhere, you want to do something, it doesn't mean you have to. Why? Because these things aren't built for you. They're not built for your betterment. They're not built to support you, to give you that success in life. You have to make the choice between what is good for you and what is bad for you. Here's the thing. If, for instance, let's say I have a diesel car, right? In my car, it takes diesel fuel. I could get to the petrol station and I'll be honest with you, for anybody in life who earns their own money, who works hard, they want to save as much of their money as possible. They want to spend as little of their money as possible, or rather, they want to spend it on things they enjoy. And nobody enjoys spending money on fuel. So I might want for myself to spend as little money as possible. Petrol is a lot cheaper than diesel. It doesn't mean I'm going to go and put petrol in that diesel car because it's cheaper. I want to save money. Why? Because in the long run, it makes no sense. In the long run, it doesn't actually help me. Yeah, sure, right now, I'll spend 5 quid less, 10 quid less. And I want to spend less money, sure. But does it make sense to make that change? Does it make sense to make that switch from diesel to petrol in a car that takes diesel? No. What's going to happen to my car if I put the wrong kind of fuel in it? The car will break down. And I know my car broke down here last year, but this isn't the reason, I promise you. You see, the car will stop working. And when the car stops working, now what happens? Now I have to spend a lot more money getting that car fixed. I have to spend a lot more money doing the repairs on that car, draining that fuel, fixing the damage that it did. Why? Because in that moment, for that 5-10 quid difference, I decided I want to save that little bit of money. And now I've spent I don't know how many hundreds of pounds having to fix that mistake. In life, all of these little desires that will satiate you for an hour, you know what? A minute, 15 minutes, an hour, a month, a week, a year, whatever it is. If it's not going to be there to support you for eternity, why are you doing that for yourself? Think about things in the long run. Think about things as the perspective of Islam gives you. The perspective of Islam is the perspective that this life isn't the be-all and end-all. This life isn't everything. No, you have a life after this. When you leave this world, that's not the end of it all. No, that's just half time. You've still got the entire second half to play. You've still got to go to the afterlife. And that's the main one. That's the one that you've got to win. It's like, and I try not to use the examples of football, but what can I do? I always end up there somehow. It's like in a Champions League match, right? It's knockout stage game. Doesn't matter what you did in that first leg. The second leg, the result at the end of that, that's what matters. But in that first leg, if you play well in the first game, you can set yourself up brilliantly for that second leg. You can set yourself up perfectly for that second leg. Make sure in this life, you set yourself up brilliantly for that second leg, because that's where the rewards are. That's where you get through to the next round. That's where you make it. You see, we have to get ourselves ready for that life. And if you don't get yourself ready for that life, you find yourself succumbing to sin. You find yourself falling to those desires. You'll realize as you go through life, it gets more and more difficult. It doesn't get easier. All these little things, they plug a little gap within you. I desired this for this thing, in this moment, for this reason, whatever it may be, right? I desired that in that moment, or at least I thought that's what I needed in that moment. It plugged a little hole for a moment. But when it plugged that little hole there, what I didn't realize is there was a massive gap still open somewhere else within me. And that is what needed filling. That's what needed satisfying, but I never did that. And so as I go through life trying to find these little pleasures and these little desires, I realized I left behind all the things that matter. The things that really bring value to my life, I forgot all of those. We have to try to be in control of our own lives. You want to see an example of control in life? And I'm not going into Masa'ib. Just go and look at the life of Hazrat Abu al-Fadl Abbas. Go look at the life of the brother of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I'm not going into Masa'ib here, but I just want to speak for a moment about controlling your emotions. We always talk about Karbala. We repeat these Masa'ib year in, year out. We have to focus on the lessons from them as well. Hazrat Abbas, he was a great warrior, a great soldier. So much so that in the Battle of Siffin, when Hazrat Abbas covers his face and goes out to fight, what did the enemies of Islam say? They say, is it Ali Murtaza who has come out to fight? They confuse Hazrat Abbas with Imam Ali alayhi salam in that moment. This is what kind of a warrior Hazrat Abbas was. This is what kind of a soldier he was. And yet, again and again, in Medina, where Imam Hussein's life was threatened at the palace of the governor, Hazrat Abbas draws his sword. Imam Hussein says, Abbas, no, not right now. He puts his sword away. A great warrior, he wants to show his strength. More so than that, Hazrat Abbas loves Imam Hussein more than anybody in the world. We used the example when we spoke of love and care. If somebody threatened your parents, would you sit there quietly? You wouldn't. If somebody was rude to your parents, would you sit there and let them do it? You wouldn't. You'd be angry, you'd be enraged. And if you didn't do anything in that moment, it would eat away at you constantly. It would constantly eat away at you. Why did I not defend my mom and dad? Why did I not do something to that person? Why did I not retaliate or respond in that moment? Hazrat Abbas here in Medina, Imam Hussein tells him, Abbas, no. So he says no. He puts his sword away. On the 2nd of Muharram, when they arrive in Karbala, Hazrat Abbas pitches the tents of Imam Hussein's family by the river Furat. The armies of Yazid, they do what? They rip up the tents and move them away. Hazrat Abbas, angered. Why should the armies of the enemies of Islam be able to have access to the river, be able to have access to water, and we, the family of Rasulullah, should not? Hazrat Abbas, enraged and angry, he goes to draw his sword. Imam Hussein, he tells him, Abbas, no, not right now. On the day of Ashura, Hazrat Abbas, when he's seen one by one, all his friends is enraged and angry. Hazrat Abbas, a great warrior, he wants to show his strength. This is what Hazrat Abbas knows he can do. He knows he can go and he knows he can send many of the enemies of Islam to hell. Imam Hussein tells him, Abbas, no. So what does Hazrat Abbas do? He hands his sword over. I'm not going into Masa'ib with that, but if you look at that, that's what you call control over your emotions. In the most testing of circumstances, in the most difficult of moments, Abu al-Fadl Abbas controls his emotions. The same way Nabi Yusuf, when we spoke about the story of Nabi Yusuf and Zulaykha, he controlled his emotions. When Nabi Yusuf did it in that room, she even locked the door. Why? Look, if you carry on with these shahwat, with these desires, if you go through with this sin, nobody will know. It's just me and you. Nobody will know. I won't tell anyone. You won't tell anyone. When you're in the privacy of your own home, when you're alone, when you think there's nobody watching, remember the story of Nabi Yusuf. He knew, even there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. Even there, your Lord knows what's going on. It doesn't matter what the scenario is. It doesn't matter what the situation is. Mum and dad have gone to sleep. I'm home alone. There's nobody around. My door's locked. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You're being seen and you're being watched in that moment, just as much as you're being watched when you're in the mosque, just as much as you're being watched when your parents are in front of you, just as much as you're being watched when you're in school. The reality is, at every stage of life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of what you are doing. He's aware of what is in your heart and what is in your actions. And the beauty of that is, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees that there is the desire for sin in your heart, when you wish to do something that goes against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sees that in your heart. Now, if, for instance, one of you guys didn't like me, if, for instance, let's say Zayan, he really doesn't like me for whatever reason. If somehow I found out that Zayan doesn't like me, he's never done anything rude to me, he's never been rude to me, he's always been nice on the face of it, but I find out that he doesn't like me. For whatever reason, he doesn't like me. Just because he doesn't like me in his heart, all of a sudden, for me, that's going to be a reason for me to not like him. That's going to be a reason why I think to myself, oh no, he doesn't like me. I'm not going to listen to him. I'm not going to be with him the way that I would be with my mates. I'm not going to chill with him. I'm not going to spend time with him. Why? He doesn't like me. I don't want to. He hasn't done anything to me. He's been nice enough. He's kind. He's respectful. He hasn't done anything. But in his heart, he doesn't like me for whatever reason. If I know that, I'm not going to like him. Because in his heart, he doesn't like me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sees in your heart that you want to do sins. He sees in your heart that you want to go against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but purely for the reason that you didn't carry out that action, purely for the reason that you didn't go through with that sin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't punish you, far from it. He rewards you even more for avoiding that sin. He rewards you even more purely for the sake of the fact that you decided, even though I want something which Allah said no to, I'm going to avoid it. That's the sacrifice we need. That's the way we remove the bad from our lives, to make way and make space for that love and that loyalty which we should have in our lives, which we need in our lives. And when we have that, the ability to sacrifice, the ability to give up the things that we like and that we love, if we see that they are not good for us, if we see that they are against what Islam teaches us, if we see that they are against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instructed of us, that's when you start going towards the path of hayhat min nadillah. That's when you start pushing away dishonor and disrespect. And if you can do that, then you'll find yourself meeting the greatest of ends. You'll find yourself sacrificing your life, sacrificing in your life. And the end of all of these trials, the end of all of these tests, the final hurdle or the final destination for those people is indeed, inshallah, the heaven of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Recite aloud, salawat ala Muhammad wa ala. And you see, when it comes to sacrifice, tonight we remember the sacrifice which for our Mawla, for our Master, for Hussein ibn Ali, was the greatest sacrifice. The greatest sacrifice he made in Karbala. We remember that sacrifice tonight. You see, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam left for Medina, it would have been normal for everyone to expect Abu al-Fadl Abbas, he will give his life. It was normal for everyone to expect Ali al-Akbar, he will give his life. It was normal for everyone to expect that the friends of Imam Hussein, the family of Imam Hussein, they would give their lives. There was not a single person who could have told you that on that day of Ashura, the 6-month-old baby of Hussein ibn Ali, Ali al-Asghar too, would give his life. For you see, there is nobody who could have told you that on that day where Imam Hussein had nobody left with him, where he had nobody beside him anymore, when he goes out to the battlefield one last time, my heart tells me he would have looked towards the river Furat. He would have seen Abbas's body lying on the sands of Karbala. He would have looked back towards the tent scene where he took the body of Ali al-Akbar, seeing where Qasim lay, before he turns out towards the world and calls out, Hal min nasirin yansuruna. Is there anybody out there to help us, the family of the Prophet? Is there anybody out there to help us in this moment? Aba Abdullah, he begins to hear a crying coming from the tents. He hears wailing and weeping coming from his own family's tents. He returns, he addresses Sayyidah Zainab and Bibi Kulthum, his two sisters. He says to his sisters, while Hussein is still alive, you do not need to cry like this. Why do you cry while your brother is still here? Sayyidah Zainab and Bibi Kulthum, they turn to Abu Abdullah and they say to him, it was your call out in that battlefield. When you called out, is there anybody out there to help us? Asghar let out a terrible shriek. He started crying and weeping in a way that none of us can stop him. None of us can calm him down. Abu Abdullah takes his 6-month-old baby in his hands. He whispers something in his ear. Asghar, I do not know what was whispered in your ear, but I do know what happened after that moment. In that moment, Ali al-Asghar's tears turned to laughter. They turned to smiles. Imam Hussein, he turns to Bibi Rabab. He has her 6-month-old baby in his hands. He says to her, look, my Asghar is still thirsty. For 3 days the water has been cut off. Let me see if I can go and get some water for my child. Let me see if I can get some water for Ali al-Asghar. Bibi Rabab, she looks at Imam Hussein. She says, go get water for Asghar. Imam Hussein, he then does something peculiar. He says to Bibi Rabab, Rabab, before I take Asghar to get water, take your child in your hands one time. Change his clothes. Take care of him as much as you can. In these last moments, Ali al-Asghar, his clothes are changed. His little hair is combed. Bibi Rabab, she kisses her child and hands him over to Hussein. As far as she is aware, Asghar will go to get water. When he gets the water, he will return. Now Abu Abdullah, he takes his 6-month-old baby. He begins to walk out of the tent. But as the heat of the desert sun in Karbala hits, Mawla Hussein does not want Asghar to be hurt or harmed by the intensity of the sun. I would call out, Ya Hussein, you didn't want the sun to hurt your Asghar. Did you not know the pain that he is about to go through? As Imam Hussein feels the heat of the sun, he hides Asghar under his cloak, under his abba, to shield him from the sun. The enemies of Islam begin laughing. They do not see what Mawla Hussein is bringing out of the tents. They begin calling out, look, Hussein is alone, he has nobody left. It is as though he is bringing out the Quran hidden under his cloak. He wishes to plead with us by the sake of the Quran. Abu Abdullah, he walks out. He addresses the armies of Yazid. He brings Asghar out from his cloak and he calls out, look, your fight is with me. Your argument is with me. Your anger is towards me. My child has done nothing to hurt you. My baby has done nothing to harm you. If it would be possible, bring some water for my Asghar. Imam Hussein, holding Asghar high above the sands of Karbala, he calls out and he asks the question, who will bring water for my child? No water came for Asghar. Imam Hussein addresses the armies again. He says, maybe you think that when I give you my Asghar, or when you bring water for my Asghar, that Hussein will drink it himself. I know you wish to keep Hussein thirsty. Here, let me place Asghar down. Bring the water, give it to him yourself. I won't go near him. Mawla Hussein, he places his abba on the burning sands of Karbala. He places his 6-month-old baby on that abba. He stands back, he waits, but still no water comes for Ali al-Asghar. Asghar. Now Mawla Hussein steps forward. He picks up this baby in his arms. He looks at Asghar and he says to him, Asghar, I know you are not old enough to carry a sword nor a spear. Asghar, I know you cannot fire an arrow, but you too are the grandson of Ali. You too are the nephew of Abbas. You too are the son of Hussein. Asghar, the time has come for your jihad. I know that you will fight a jihad great as can be. Asghar, the time has come now for you to play your part in Karbala. Abu Abdullah holds his child up in the air in front of the armies of Yazid, hoping that Asghar can evoke enough emotion that the armies of Yazid will bring war to themselves. What does Asghar do? What was the jihad of this 6-month-old baby? This child, hungry and thirsty for 3 days. He can do nothing of the sort that has happened until now. No sword, no spear, no lance, no arrow can be fired by Asghar. Asghar does the only thing he can. This 6-month-old baby opens his mouth. He begins running his dry tongue over his dry lips. The armies of Yazid watching. There were fathers amongst them. They began crying, turning their faces. It said that certain soldiers began running from the battlefield. In that moment, Umar ibn Sa'd, he sees the armies turning against him. This was the jihad of Asghar. He calls out, Hurmala, iqta kalam al-Hussein. Hurmala, silence the word of Hussein. Hurmala, the archer steps forward. He pulls an arrow from his collection. He places it in his bow. He raises the arrow towards Ali ibn Asghar. But as he does, he drops the arrow to the ground. Again, he picks up that same arrow. He points it in the direction of Asghar. Again, he drops it to the ground. A third time, he lifts the arrow. A third time, he drops it. Umar ibn Sa'd, he comes to Hurmala. He says to him, Hurmala, if anybody were to ask me who is the best marksman in all of Arabia, I would not hesitate to say your name. Tell me, what is it about this child that makes you so afraid that you cannot fire your arrow? Hurmala responds, it is not the child that I am afraid of, but every time I raise my bow and arrow towards him, at the entrance to the tents, I see the curtains of the tent begin to flutter. I can hear the crying of a mother. How can I attack this child when I hear a mother calling out, Hurmala, my 6-month-old child, what did he do to you? Umar ibn Sa'd, he says to Hurmala, Hurmala, if you cannot fire the arrow, I will get somebody else to do it. Hurmala says, no, it will be me. He lifts an arrow again. He gets ready to fire, but this was no ordinary arrow. In the battlefield of Karbala, there were many swords, many spears, many lances, and many arrows. Amongst the arrows, there were those arrows which are used to attack and kill a human. But in this instance, the arrow that Hurmala chooses for baby Ali Asghar is the kind of arrow that was used to pierce the neck of a camel or a horse. Hurmala, he pulls this arrow heavy in weight. I would say that arrow itself was heavier than Asghar. As Hurmala draws it, he pulls the string back. As Hurmala releases, the arrow begins to cut through the air of Karbala. The whole land falls silent. Now you won't hear any horses neighing. You won't hear any chains shaking. You won't hear any swords clashing. Perfect silence in Karbala as Hussein watches this arrow come towards his baby. Hussein hides Asghar in his hands. He tries to shield his child, but what can he do? As the arrow strikes the arm of Hussein, it goes straight through to the neck of Asghar. But I say it was the neck of Asghar. The Maqatil, the history books, the narrators, they say it didn't just strike the neck of Asghar. The words they use is from one ear to the other ear. Asghar's face was cut by the arrow. Hussein, in this moment, I said this was the most difficult sacrifice. Why did I say that? In your most difficult times, you remember your people. You remember those you care about. You remember those you love. Here is the moment where Abu Abdullah, he turns back towards the tent. He calls out, Shi'ati, my Shia. My Imam remembers us in this moment as he calls out, whenever you drink cold water, remember your Hussein, whose Asghar died thirsty in the burning deserts of Karbala. Abu Abdullah, he then turns towards Medina. He calls out, Ya Jadda, Ya Rasulullah, my grandfather Rasulullah, I wish my Shia could see me in this moment. Hussein, he wipes the blood of Asghar over his face and over his beard. He then says to Rasulullah, he calls out to his grandfather, Ya Rasulullah, I bear witness that when I come to greet you in heaven, you will see me in exactly this state, with the blood of Asghar dripping from my beard. Hussein, he begins to walk back towards the tent, but something in the heart of Hussein stops him. My heart tells me Hussein knew. When I return to that tent, there is a lady waiting for her child to come back. Rabab is waiting for her baby to be returned to her. How can I give Rabab her Asghar? Imam Hussein stops. He turns back towards the battlefield. He begins walking back towards the soldiers of Yazid. He stops again. He goes towards the tent. Again, he goes back towards the battlefield. 7 times Abu Abdullah had to stop himself and turn back towards the battlefield, the whole time calling out, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. The final line of Masaib, Abu Abdullah, he gets to the tent of Bibi Rabab. He hands her the 6-month-old baby. Bibi Rabab, she shrieks and she calls out, Ya Abu Abdullah, I did not know even children of 6-month-olds would be killed in this manner. But then she stops for a moment. Rabab, she takes a breath. Her head down, she lifts her face up, looks towards her master, looks towards Abu Abdullah. She says to him, Hussein, Hussein, will you answer just one question for me? Will you answer just one question for this mother? Abu Abdullah, he says to her, Rabab, tell me, what do you wish to know? She looks at Abu Abdullah and she says, tell me, before they killed my child, did they at least give him a sip of water? Hussein, tell me, did my Asghar die thirsty, or was he given something to drink? The tears fill Hussein's eyes. The Maqatil don't tell us that Hussein responded to Rabab. How can he tell her, Rabab, your child's thirst was quenched by the arrow of Hormala. The blood flowing from Asghar's neck like a fountain was the only thing he had. Ala la'natullahi ala qawmi zalimin. فَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلِبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. We raise our hands in dua and we pray to Allah Azza wa Jal. Oh Allah, accept all our ibadat in this holy month of Muharram al-Haram. Oh Allah, around the world, for all those mu'mineen struggling with ill health, grant them complete shifa. Oh Allah, for all those mu'mineen who have left this world, in particular the marhumeen of those present, raise their ranks in Jannah. Oh Allah, for all those around the world struggling under oppression, grant them freedom from their oppressors. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and allow us to enter Jannah under his banner. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع الدعاء.